Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to the session today. Thank you very much for joining in. I think we've come a long way. I'm talking about the Six Digits program. Uh, we have spent about 60 evenings together, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or otherwise 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and done a lot of hard work. We are now approaching the end of our Six Digits program, and for that matter, um, for the subject content, today is going to be our last session. I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask about what's going to happen with our Bangladesh tax series. So we're still waiting for our EY Bangladesh team to respond to us because their partners were in some important meetings in the UK, because of which it kept delaying. But nevertheless, we're not written it off. It's going to be offered. We're going to run it, but it's just a bit of time, and therefore we could not wait to conclude our Six Digits program. So I'm sure all of you are going to be excited that all your hard work, um, all all the efforts that you'd put in, all the time that you'd put in, it's going to start bearing results and start bearing fruit. Um, the true results, let me very quickly just say, the true results or the true satisfaction from putting in so much effort, that comes in when we start hearing from people that they have um, that they have you know they have achieved their earning potential, which was the actual gist or the crux of this program. So I'm, I have been noticing the group chats on WhatsApp, and a lot of conversations where people coming in telling us, that they have seen promotions, they have been acknowledged by their employers, they have seen growth in their careers. I think that is the real, the element which gives us satisfaction as a result of all the work that's been put into it. How many more of these programs we're going to offer? I keep fingers crossed. We are definitely going to continue and offer such value added programs to our members. Um, Without taking too much time, today's subject is very important, and I must say, this is the best penultimate session that we could bring in and offer to you as part of our 60 series, because um, it's all about how your mind functions, how your mind works, how effectively and efficiently it keeps you in the positive zone, and therefore you know are all your aspirations met as a result? And if they are not met, um, does your uh, does your thought process take you into a negative territory, which means slow down, which means a tunnel vision, which means blinkers on, or does it still keeps your horizon broad, your vision open, your energies high, and your enthusiasm at its peak? So that is what matters the most in the end. With all this wealth of knowledge that we've shared with you, um, the most important bit is, how does your brain function that? If you're in your positive zone, if you're positively oriented, if you're really energetic and not facing setbacks, and therefore slowing down as a result, um, you know you have, I mean, this is what today's session is going to tell you all about, and this is the real potential that we would want all of you to carry with you throughout your careers. um, Today is a session on mindfulness, and our last session for the Six Digits program is going to be on Monday. And I'm going to invite certain individuals, including Sajid, including all other colleagues who have been a very active part of this session. We'll try to bring them in and do a good, nice conclusion to the Six Digits program. Um, so that is what I wanted to share in the beginning. Let's now move on to today's subject, and we have with us uh, Sabina Salim, and you must have seen her profile in the announcement. But Sabina, correct me if I go wrong anywhere. Sabina. Number one is a clinical psychologist and a clinical scientist and an organizational behavior expert. Um, we are very happy and honored to have her with us today, a very young individual. But I have had a chance to attend one of her sessions in the TEDx series in Lahore, and that is where it struck my mind that this will be wonderful content for our 60 Days participants as well, and that's where I requested her to come over and deliver this session for us. I have tried to explain, who we are as an organization, who all the participants are sitting in the group, what is the spread, what is the take up of this program. So we've discussed all that, and therefore, I'm sure it's going to be a very, very interactive session. My request to you, Sabina is going to take a lot of question and answer breaks. This session is all about interaction, right? And while we are continuously looking at the questions window, so keep your questions coming in. Just as we get a question answer break, we'll immediately put your questions up. But at the same time, do not shy away from raising your hand and asking a question. Whenever, once again, we get a chance, we'll unmute participants and we will request, for you people to put your questions verbally as well, put them up. So that is what the plan is like. So without any further ado, if I may hand over to Sabina, and Sabina, if you can share your screen also, so that people can see your slide deck. Um, I know a lot of the participants immediately start asking for the slide deck, and we've already arranged for that. So if you look at the handouts, uh, mindfulness and growth is the handout which is attached. You can download it and use it afterwards. But I would suggest for the duration of the session, please be very, very attentive. Listen to what Sabina is saying. She's got some very, very nice exercises, and they're very useful. They're very rejuvenating. Let me, sort of put it correctly. They're very rejuvenating, and as rightly said in the introduction, these are going to go with you throughout your professional lives. I mean, these methodologies or these exercises, they never die down, they never get old, and they remain very relevant. So please do keep exercising, the work that you're going to do today. Keep revisiting this content. Keep doing these exercises regularly in your day-to-day life. So I'm sorry I've spoken too much, taken a lot of time. I promise to Sabina that I will not try to steal her thunder. So with as many words I could explain the content. So Sabina, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and hope you're having a wonderful day. Mr. Haroon has certainly made my day very delightful with some wonderful, wonderful compliments. I hope I get to earn them rightfully, if I might put it that way. I can't see a lot of you at the moment. However, I do expect that throughout the course of this engagement that we have today, during these 1.5 hours, we will get to speak in different ways. So, welcome everyone. Today, I will be talking about maximizing personal and professional growth with mindfulness. Now, if you might notice, this is something that you have to do mindfully. The word mindfulness has one L, it does not have two L's. The reason being, mindfulness with a single L is almost an opposite of mindfulness with double L's. Before going any further, I would like to introduce myself a little bit so that you know who I am. I am primarily trained in clinical psychology, and during my MS at NUST Islamabad, I got a chance to learn mindfulness, and I have been practicing ever since because the model is very relatable. It's something that you can start any day, and then you can grow into it, and it grows on you. You get deeper, and my favorite bit about it is that um, mindfulness is based on your own curriculum. So, yeah, I've done my MS in clinical psychology. However, at the time being, I'm also serving as an organizational wellness psychologist at a software house. And I love to share what I have been able to learn till date. Before we go any further, I have 5 questions, and Mr. Haroon was very kind to arrange a few polls for us so that you can participate. I am going to read out statements one by one, and we will give you time to respond to them. Okay? The answer could either be a true or false. So please do attempt, even if you're not sure about it. Please don't be afraid to speak up. And then we can learn together whether it's true or not. And if it's not, then why? And if it is, why? The first statement is mindfulness is about taking out time to relax.
Okay, the poll question is up on your screen. We are already getting results. Sabina, if you can see the control panel, you should be able to see the results as well.
Okay.
Is that correct? Can you see those results?
Uh, I can't at the moment. I'm unable to find the results. I can see the poll on my screen.
Oh, all right. Okay. I can then share the results with you.
Yeah, sure. That would be good.
We'll just give them 10 seconds more. 51% of the audience has voted so far. I hope the remaining 45% now will also very quickly respond. Please be very, very quick in responding because we can't take too much time on this. We want to get on with the discussion. Okay, so let me stop this poll here, and I would expect more responses in the polls afterwards. So closing it, and I'm sharing the result on the screen. Can you see the result now, Sabina?
Yeah, I can see the result now.
Great. So 62% of the participants said that yes, this is true. It's about taking out
True.
time to relax. However, 38% thought that it is false.
Well, that is a wonderful response. It's interesting that 62% of the people are not exactly correct here. And it's actually wonderful because we get to learn together this way, right? So, mindfulness is very different from relaxation exercises or relaxation meditations per se. Relaxation meditations are focused at relaxation. Mindfulness does not have such a motive. So, if relaxation comes, that is really a byproduct, but that is not what we are aiming for. So, 62% of us have learned something new. That is a success. Now, for the second statement, great job, by the way. Please do participate. That is how we learn. The second question is the statement is mindfulness is meditation.
Okay, voting time starts now. I'm going to give you 30 seconds in all, so please be very quick. Simple question, just to click and submit. Okay, keep going, keep going. 30 seconds are up. I'm going to stop the poll. 58% voted. So stopping it, and here's the results on your screen.
We're actually quite tied here. Okay, this was a tricky question indeed, although it just had 3 words, but that's all it takes apparently. Mindfulness, just a part of it is considered to come under the umbrella of meditation. The rest of it does not. because mindfulness is basically a lifestyle, it's a habit, it's how you train your mind. And meditation is like the word sports. Now, can we call Ludo a sport? That would be interesting, right? You can play it, you can win or lose, but it's not exactly a sport. So, in the same way, mindfulness is only a slight part of it comes under meditation, otherwise, it's not. For the third statement, you can practice mindfulness anywhere and it does not require being at a quiet place.
Okay, 54% have voted. 10 seconds now.
Come on, everyone, we can do this.
Okay, 59%. So yeah, all right, 60%. Stop sharing the screen now.
Yeah. Wonderful. You can practice mindfulness anywhere and it does not require being at a quiet place. 72% people are right about this. And why it does not need it, let's talk more about that soon. As I said earlier, it's a habit, it's a lifestyle. So definitely, it can be associated with a few daily habits, and those habits don't need a quiet place. Yes, however, you might be required to focus. So for the fourth statement, mindfulness has a great immediate benefits.
Okay, it's up on your screen. 30 seconds for it once again. %59. We want more people. Come on, come on. All right, 60. So let's stop here. And this results on your
Getting
screen.
better at this?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So interestingly, this time 24% of the people are correct and 76% are learning something new. Mindfulness is something that's comparatively easier to learn. It's easy to start practicing it. However, the benefits are rather long term. They are great, no doubt, but they're not exactly immediate. And how and why, we'll talk about that soon. And now for our last statement. It is impossible to be mindful at all times.
Okay. I think, Sapaina, are these questions difficult? As in, are they challenging the existing thought process? Because
Exactly,
I
that
see
is
a lot of.
how they were designed.
All right.
Yeah. So
All
the
right,
whole
people. I
idea
think.
is to make, yeah,
Sure,
go
go on,
ahead.
please.
The whole idea is to make people think. Thinking, curiosity, that is what we are trying to evoke. When a person is curious, they're most likely to learn a lot more than they would normally do. So,
Wonderful. All right, you got the results on the screen.
wow. We have an amazing set of audience today. It is impossible to be mindful at all times, and 60% of you are correct about this. It is rather impossible to be mindful at all times. It's not natural. However, um, what we are aiming for is the ability to learn how to turn that switch on immediately. And with practice, that becomes regular, it becomes easier to just switch it on and become mindful and gain more control as a, as a consequence. That's not what you're aiming for, but that is what you end up getting. Now, for the formal presentation, thank you so much, everyone, for participating in this. And for those who haven't done that, please do so. It's always good to make your voice heard in different forms. So, good luck. I hope this is interesting for all of you. Let's start with the very definition of mindfulness. Um, but before we go there, mindfulness, um, I think one of the most popular questions around mindfulness is who developed it? It's interesting because whenever we are studying any technique or any meditation or any even clinical techniques, there's always a person who has either discovered it, developed it, usually it's developed it. Uh, but in mindfulness, the whole credit does not belong to one person. It's interesting because mindfulness has been a part of different religions, different cultural practices, and the earliest traces that have been found are from the region that we are all sitting in, that is the South Asian region, um, in the Hindu and Buddhist civilizations. And the earliest forms, when mindfulness started gaining this prominence, was during the time of Buddha, the one who eventually ended up creating the whole Buddhism. And his philosophies are still alive and well even today. So, mindfulness per se is not credited to someone's name. That's the beauty of it. And if you look at it, it can't be. The reason being, mindfulness is all about understanding that all of us are individuals and we have our own qualities. And so we also have our own curriculums. We are really alike, we are similar to each other, but we have different ways of being, and that is how our curriculum is different. So, mindfulness school actually suggests that you should pay attention to that curriculum that you were sent down on earth with. So, the definition you see here today was presented by John Kabat-Zinn. He is someone who's a microbiologist, actually. And interestingly, he is the person who's responsible for introducing the Western world with this concept of mindfulness and secularizing it in a way. Because, as I mentioned earlier, several religious practices also have them. So, in order to introduce it to the West and introducing it as a science, that took quite an effort. And once it was secularized, it became a bit easier for scientists to look at it from a perspective where they could welcome it. Otherwise, a lot of people are rather skeptical after these movements in the world that went around, where the science and religion were separated. So this process actually helped. And after that time, when John Kabat-Zinn took it to West and then desecularized it, it became easier for them to study it. And that is why once something is studied, we can look at it, we can experiment, then only you can bring it to the masses for treatment purposes, for different settings. You can reshape it. It becomes teachable. It's something that can be conveyed. So yeah, that is an important contribution. So this is how John Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness: the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. If you look at it, what are we talking about? There are so many words there. And I assure you, each one of these words has a meaning. There is no repetition here. I'm going to go over it one more time. So here are the highlights. The word awareness, the word emergence, paying attention on purpose. Interestingly, paying attention is the purpose, and paying attention is a conscious act, right? In the present moment, so present moment is another key term here. Present moment. Present can actually depict a time between several moments. So at the present moment in particular, non-judgmentally, whenever something is presented to us as human beings, as a matter of fact, the judgment parts of us, they emerge immediately. That is something like, it's something that is an instinct. I'm moving my hands, is this good or not? Your mind is definitely going to assess that for itself, and hence a judgment is attached, and there is more focus on the judgment whether this is okay or not than the fact that my hands are moving irrespective of it, right? So that unfolding of experience, when you start looking at these hands and they're moving, how are they moving? What are they seeing? What speed are they moving at? What's the tonality? What's the tonality of my voice? What's the volume of my voice? Your present moment is presenting you with all this information. So it's about opening yourself to it moment by moment. I hope that makes sense. And as we go forward, you're going to see how all of these words are equally important and relevant. Now, here is a wonderful saying. Now, this is something that is also associated with Buddha. And you can find this line in different by different people as well. But here I'm quoting Buddha. He said, "I'm not the thought. The thought is separate from me." Before going any further, let's learn about this differentiation. At any given point in time, your brain, your mind, these are two separate things. Brain is the physical form, mind is not exactly a physical form, but it has its own processes. There are a few distinct terms that you need to be aware of for the sake of our discussion today. The first one is thoughts. Thoughts are the statements that go through our head during any part of day, during any time. They can look like, oh, it's too bright in this room. Oh, this remote is clean. Oh, this screen is white. Oh, I don't like what I see. Oh, I love these flowers. These are thoughts. These are statements. They go through our head. There are different words for them. The second bit is the feeling or the emotion. How am I feeling in a particular moment? So a person could be feeling happy, sad, excited, angry, frustrated, irritated, amazed, amused, and there are so many others. They can also feel embarrassed. And then, so that we have gone through the thought, we've gone through the emotion. Emotion is usually one word, but they can occur in combinations. So it's important to understand that the third bit is behavior. Behavior is what a person is doing, whether you're doing it yourself or you're doing it or you're observing someone else doing it. For example, movement of hands, picking up something, putting down something, speaking, not speaking, all of these are behaviors. And then there are physical sensations. Physical sensations are what we feel inside our body in terms of pain, temperature change, touch. All of these are physical sensations. If you observe closely, you might be able to feel your heart that is beating, and that beat is a physical sensation. So before we go forward, you need to remember these things, and then we can um, get to understand this better. So when they said, I'm not the thought is separate, this is what they meant by it. A thought that crosses your mind is an entity in itself. It's not you. For example, if I say that I am not too fond of the flowers that are present in front of me. That's one way of saying that, a part of me is not liking them, but I am not that dislike feeling, right? So it's important to differentiate. Together, they are related to your identity, they're related to your present moment, but they are not you. So a slight distance is what we are talking about. And hence, that brings us to the concept and basic components of mindfulness. There are a few basic components. Different people have had different theories about this. They have presented different parts. And the one that I have picked up, this was presented by Boer et al. In 2008. And it is something that is mostly um, agreed upon, what we might call it. So the first component, as they say, is witnessing. What it means is, in mindfulness, a person is required to witness. This is one of the key elements of mindfulness, witnessing, noticing, observing, or attending thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions. You are witnessing them, you're not them. It's just like saying the fan above my head is moving. It's on its own, right? I'm not doing anything, it's moving. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it from an observer's point of view. So, witnessing. Second is labeling. When that fan is moving, I can describe how it's moving, as I was talking about earlier, the tonality, the speed, the volume, the shape, the color. I can label all these things, right? So describing and giving labels using words. If the fan is moving, it's moving, right? I'm witnessing that. I can label it. Okay, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? The third is acting. Acting is one part of mindfulness. How? That if I am picking up this case, I'm doing it mindfully. I'm aware that I'm doing it. I'm not, you might have actually seen this happening. Some people hold a pen and then they go like this. If I do that too much to this one, I'm pretty sure I'm going to ruin this. But this is what they do, right? Fidgeting. This is the exact opposite of mindfulness with a single L. This is exactly what mindfulness looks like. My mind is full. I'm thinking about something else and I'm moving this. So before I drop this, I'm going to put this down. Acting with awareness is also a part of that. Fourth is non-reactivity. Now, fan is moving. I'm not going to stop it. It's moving. I can see that. I can describe that. But I'm not actually annoyed by it. I'm just observing that this is what's happening. Same is the case with the inner experiences. Sometimes we feel upset about something, and we can see that, okay, I'm upset, I'm sad about this, I'm hurt, but that is not exactly something that I'm reacting to. I'm observing, right? So non-reactivity is another part. Fifth is non-judging. This is very important. A lot of times we want to react to something, not respond with awareness. We react to something because there's a judgment attached. For example, there's a concept of meta emotions. I really like that one. Has it ever happened to you? Now, go inside, think about it yourself, that one day you're really angry at a friend and you develop an emotion, okay, I'm angry at this person. But then you're upset with yourself for being angry at a friend. That upset because you were angry is the judgment. Because the whole idea is, oh, that person is also my friend. I should not be upset. So this should and this preconceived notion and this judgment that I should be a certain way, I should not be a certain way, or something might have a consequence, that is a judgment bit. Mindfulness does not have that judgment. I hope that makes sense. So, not judging the inner experiences. If I'm feeling angry towards someone or I'm feeling afraid about something, one, I'm not that fear. Second, I am not going to judge myself for being afraid. I'm going to observe that I am afraid. Now, what is that fear trying to tell me? What's going on? So I'm observing, I'm asking, Naturally, I'm becoming more and more curious. There are two C's that are very important in mindfulness: curiosity, compassion. We'll go towards them in a while. For now, curious, become curious, not judgmental. The last one is diminished self talk. Now, this is not exactly what Bohr talks about, but this is something that is agreed upon, and in later revisions, this was added in. So, diminished self talk is when we try to steer ourselves in a particular direction. You might have observed this happening inside. Sometimes we're like, okay, I'm pretty annoyed at that person. I shouldn't be annoyed. I don't want to be annoyed. How about I get up and I make myself a, a meal or something? You know, that talk, I am trying to distract myself without seeing what's going on inside me. So with mindfulness, it's also about diminishing that self-talk. It's about letting things be. We're not trying to change anything. It's not like we are trying to soothe a child. We're not going to do that. We're simply observing. Okay, I'm feeling angry at something. What is that about? So you become curious and curious. Now, when you understand that the thought is separate, you also get to be compassionate towards it. Because sometimes when everything is about us, the judgment gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So, two words: compassion and curiosity. We are able to become more and more of that once we start being that way. And this is what it does to us. Mindfulness has a very close relationship with the state of well being. If any one of you have ever read the definition of well being in the World Health Organization, uh, they also have their set of standardized definitions. So, the one that is generally acceptable is the one from 2014. And there are four postulates of well-being. Well-being is not just the absence of a disease. Okay, I'm sitting here, I don't have diabetes, I'm healthy. That's not the definition of well-being. Well-being has four components. The first one is the person is able to realize his or her own potential. Realize means acknowledge, they need to be aware of it, if and they can grow in that direction, and also realize, actualize, practically do what they're capable of doing. Second is they can work productively and fruitfully. So this person is a person who is in a state of well-being. Their well-being is intact. They're rather functional, so it's easy for them to work, be productive, be creative, be engage in fruitful and meaningful discussions and work. The third one is this person is able to make contribution to his or her community. This is a very important bit because this is when a person has their well-being is intact. The wonderful bit is they're able to communicate and they're able to convey whatever goodness they have in themselves to the community. They're able to extend it. So that extension is something that brings value to the world. Now it's not just inside the person, the potential, they're able to really turn it around and give it back. That is when they start adding value in wonderful ways. And fourth is they're able to cope with normal stresses of life. Normal stresses also sometimes include the things that might hurt someone. They might feel low because of it. For example, experiencing grief, losing a loved one, losing a job, breakups. These are the things that are considered to be a part of life. And a person whose well-being is intact, who is healthy, they are able to cope with them with lesser effort. Mindfulness is something that can help in all four areas. And that is why we also say that it's a lifestyle. It's something we call it a lifestyle because of the way you're able to practice it, the way you can include it in your life, also how it acts on almost all four of them. This you a person will be more able to realize their own potential if they start practicing mindfulness. Of course, now they're more aware. So they can build on it. They have more data. Of course, due to that, they are able to be more productive. They're able to even earn higher. They have a higher life satisfaction. They are also expected to have a better work-life experience, in problems with self-esteem and money making and money management, time management. All of these things have an impact. And of course, such a person is most likely to welcome compassion in themselves and nurture it, and therefore extend it to the community they live in. Of course, they can cope with normal stresses of life. How? That is something that I'm going to leave to you for now and see what you have to think about. So now is the time for our first activity. Before we go any further, does someone has any questions till now? We have covered quite a bit. Let's take a moment and do we have any questions yet, Mr. Harun?
Feroz, if you can help us with the questions.
Yes. Guys, please type in your questions. I can't see much right now.
Okay, sure. Okay, so think about the questions. If you have any comments, you're more than welcome to share it. For now, we'll take questions. And if they don't appear in like the next 30 seconds, then we are just going to go ahead and start with our first activity. Is that okay?
Yes, I think that is fine.
Or perhaps, I believe, okay, you can think about the questions, but for now, let's start with the first activity. I'm really excited about this one. For a lot of you, this might actually be an introduction to mindfulness. Some of you might have known about it. That would be delightful news if you are already aware of it. However, in either case, or if you're in between, do allow yourself to experience it fully, irrespective of the fact if you've accepted it, experienced it or not. Um, just a disclaimer, these scripts that I will be using today, there are several of them, and all of them were written by John Kabat-Zinn, the guy we mentioned earlier, and they're available for free use, and the copyrights, there is no issue with that. So they make them available so that mindfulness can be practiced and spread as much as they can. So here's the first one, taking a breathing space. Now, make sure everyone's ready. Put down your pens if you're holding any. If not, great. And make a definite change in your posture so it embodies a sense of being awake. Perhaps closing the eyes if that's possible, and beginning step one by seeing what's going on in your mind and body right now. What's the weather pattern like inside? What thoughts are around? What feelings are here? Any sensations in the body? Don't try to change anything, but open to what's already here. And now moving to step two, bringing the attention to the breath, narrowing the spotlight of attention on sensations of the breath in the abdomen, tuning into the changing physical sensations of the in-breath for its full duration and on the out-breath for its full duration. And if the mind wanders, simply acknowledging where it went and very gently escorting it back to the breath. And now step 3.
अरुण साहब, hope you're doing well.
Expanding.
अरुण साहब, आपके साथ वेबिनार के ऊपर एक डिस्कशन करनी है. आप जब
I'm sorry, someone can you please mute this person?
Yes, yes. You can carry on now.
Sure. Expanding the focus of your awareness around the breath to take in the whole body. It's as if the whole body were breathing by now. Being aware of your posture, your facial expressions, sensations on the surface of the skin, and from right inside the body, holding an awareness. Holding an awareness of all the sensations in your body right now, just as they are. Coming home to the body. Coming home to this moment. Once you're done, you can open your eyes, look around yourself. Was this relaxing? Perhaps for a few. However, none of this was about relaxation, but sometimes as we become more aware of our present moment, that can induce relaxation for some reason. So that's the beauty of it. And I apologize for the unexpected spike, but that is the beauty of mindfulness. We observe it without judging it, and then we let it go. That's it. Okay, so here is something that I would like to share with you. This activity that we just did, if you look at it, there's not much to it. It's very simple, and I'm hoping that we have 152 attendees at the moment, and most of you were able to do it. It was rather simple English, no? It's very easy, basic, guided. And here's the thing, where could you do it? Now, I'll tell you, I can explain it using our own example. This is an exercise that all of us, me and my colleagues, my fellow students in the master's program would do right before our case supervisions. So we would be gathered around our supervisor and we would do this by ourselves. We would not need a meditation script. When you're starting it, then yes, it is something that is helpful, but then you can take your own breathing space, you can introduce your own elements, and you take that time. It's just like if I'm sitting on this desk and my desk is full of so many things, usually there is a lot of clutter in our daily life, in our minds, right? And physically as well. But decluttering is something that we need to do on both levels. And this breathing space is about making space on that desk so that you can sit there in peace now, and whatever needs attending to, you can attend to that. And interestingly, you don't actually try to move anything, but it just happens. The decluttering, it happens. This is the way of it. By attending to it, the space is created. And what you did was you just attended to your breath and a few of your thoughts. But it's very natural for the mind to wander. And we'll see in just a bit why it does what it does. Okay, by this time, do we have any questions?
Yes,
Can
we
someone
have.
read?
Yes, Shabina, there are some
Okay.
questions. Snan Mahmood wants to know how to separate thought from ourselves and focus on situation.
And focus on situations. Ah,
Yeah,
that is the $1 million question, isn't it, Husman? That's the whole idea. People learn mindfulness to be able to answer this. The whole idea is that when we are able to observe, when we are able to witness these things, our thoughts as separate entities within us, they exist, whether we like it or we don't. But when we are able to see them as they are, we somehow, if we look at it, partially we are giving up our control. We are not trying to control them. We are not attaching any judgment or analysis. What we're doing is we're basically just attending to them. It's just like saying, okay, if it starts raining outside, it's pretty hot today, but if it starts raining outside, then one approach of looking at it would be, it's raining outside. It's a lot of water. I don't like rain. How will I go to the bus stop? How will I drive in this rain? Etc. 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 Excuse me. But another way is, oh, look, it's raining. Yeah, one word. Yeah, it's raining. So I've given up the control. What do you think I've done? I've protected my energy, my emotional bandwidth, my energy, everything. Actually, um, now I will be able to, as a result of giving up that control, I've gained a lot of control. Now I might be able to adjust how I want to spend the rest of my day with that in mind. Now I can spend it like that. Perhaps I would rather take the car today, not the cycle or the motorbike, right? So eventually, and that is why I said with mindfulness, a lot of benefits are not exactly immediate. We cannot lie about that. Eventually that is what happens, and how it happens in the with the nitty gritties and all, we'll discuss them in a while. I think we can take two more questions. Could you read them out to me?
Sure, Sabina. Alinur wants to know, can depression and mindfulness coexist? Our participants are taking the session quite seriously. So he wants to know, can depression and mindfulness coexist?
Mindfulness and depression have an inverse relationship on paper. How is that? Mindfulness practices are actively, research has shown that they are most likely to reduce depression in people. So that's a good news, right? They can coexist initially, but the more you practice, this is what research suggests, that depression lowers down, mood with depression. There are several elements. There are negative thoughts that are present. There might be sadness, so there are a lot of moods, and then several behaviors. Practicing mindfulness, making mindfulness an active part, actually has an effect on multiple levels, and that is why mindfulness based CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is one of the most commonly used therapies in the treatment of clinical depression. um, and mindfulness-based clinical depression, mindfulness-based CBT is one of the popular ones these days. What it does is it combines the mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy models to treat depression. So, yeah, mindfulness has also been shown to be a good alternative of medicines. That's interesting. So, with clinical depression, beyond a certain point, medicine becomes inevitable when the intensity is beyond severe, from severe to profound. Then medication is something that has to be given. But sometimes, there are some people who are not okay with taking medicines, and then there are also a few conditions which have depression as a byproduct. For example, patients who are suffering from cancer are most likely to experience depression as a byproduct of the whole pain that they're going through. So mindfulness can help in easing that pain, and it can also help in depression. And plus, what it does is, um, with cancer, there are a lot of medicines that a person is already taking. So meditation and mindfulness helps there in a way that you don't have to take any more an additional medication per se, because cancer keto, they'll be there, of course, but you don't have to take an antidepressant. Sometimes there can be interactions. There's so many nitty-gritties there. However, I hope that answers the question. And one more question, and then we are going to, I can see that they are a lot of them now. It's good. I think we can take one more and then we can move on. It's already 4. Wow, there's a lot to cover. Perhaps I
Sure.
can just move on to the next one. Perhaps because
Okay.
there's a lot for me to share today.
So
And
do you
I
want
can
to take another
stay for a
question?
little while. I would say we can take them later on. I'll take
Sure.
a break after this section, and then we can take two more, and then I will try my best to stay as much as I can and respond to these questions afterwards,
Sure.
inshallah.
Sure.
So
You can move.
yeah. So yeah. On to our next section, mindfulness and how it works. One must understand the inner workings of the mind to fully understand why mindfulness works. We have to understand that when you have been hearing me repeat this present moment, present moment, present moment, right? So what happens when we are not in the present moment? And by the way, that is how we are naturally. We don't stay in the present moment for a long period of time. And as we advance as species, there's so much work that we have occupied ourselves with. There's so much stimulation that um, uh, we expose ourselves to, that staying in the present moment becomes difficult. It's almost impossible now. It does not come to us on its own. What are we doing instead then in those moments when we are not in the present moment? What they say is, and this is what I like to call it, the joyless time traveling. Uh, when we are not in our present, we are usually either in our past, we are there with our memories, our emotions associated with those memories. For example, the fear of something bad happening again, or we are in the future. None of them is very pleasant. None of them is friendly to us, because as human beings, the healthiest place for us to be in is the present, for our minds and for our physical presence as well. So if you're in the future, then there can be a few anticipatory things. There might be a few fears. What if something happens? There might be a few questions, a few planning. People try to make decisions. They try to anticipate threats, etc., etc. So that time traveling, although I know there are a lot of movies that are actually fantasizing about this idea and they actually promote it. I'm pretty sure you are familiar with sci-fi and of the sorts. It's an ultimate dream in a way. But this time traveling, when it comes to our mind, it's not compatible with it. And the joyless time traveling is what makes our mind monkey like, per se. Why monkey like? If you've ever seen a monkey, they rarely sit still. They just like to move a lot. And as you were doing this breathing space exercise, you might have observed this, that your mind, it naturally just diverts. It wants to run away. It just no, it does not want to sit. And that is why the term monkey mind, it is something that we borrow from the Buddhist traditions. In science, we also call it the animal mind, the primitive mind. It is known as that because this is the part of the brain, the brain structure that we have in common with most of our mammals. It's the monkey mind. What differentiates us from that species, in a way, we are also mammals, but human beings are considered to be advanced creatures. They are considered to be advanced because of the prefrontal cortex that we have, and that gives us the ability to process difficult things. We are able to take decisions. Collectively, there's a term called higher order functioning. We're able to do that because the brain structure is present. That is how we are different from other mammals. If you look at cats, they also have emotions. Does any one of you have any pets? If they do, or if they've ever encountered an animal, they would know. With most of the vertebrates, you can see they behave. There are several ways they behave. Why they do it? There's always reasons there. So with human beings, the complexity increases because of those structures. Mindfulness actually increases brain activity in those structures. The prefrontal cortex, there are different areas, and I did not want to bore you initially as we're just introducing you to the concept. The brain centers of higher order functioning, um, the activities in them, they appear to be increased. How do we know about it? Well, thankfully, we live in the 21st century, and the fMRIs, the functional MRI, shows that there is an increased activity in the empathy center of the brain. It's interesting because in the brains of the monks, when this was initially tested, it was seen that the activity was almost like a person's brain who suffers from seizures, epileptic seizures. It's so much. However, in the monk's case, it means immense control. And in the case of a person who's going through epileptic seizure, it's an absolute loss of control. So that is one interesting bit that actually took it. It threw us off the scent, and then people started becoming more and more attentive to this concept that, oh, this is interesting. So they became curious, they become mindful of mindfulness, interestingly. And I saw that awareness is something that was giving them the power. Initially, if you look at it, the effect mindfulness, yeah, experiencing mindfulness, practicing mindfulness had on people who were just starting it, it was very little. So the person who does not do it and person who's going to do it today, the brain activity is not going to show much of the difference. But a person who's been doing it for years, for at least a few, more than a month, we could say like at least 6 months, there is a strong difference, a significant difference in different activity levels, also in their experience of pain. When such people, this is what the research suggested, that when such people experienced pain, they could also experience the pain, but they were most likely to rate it lesser unpleasant, way lesser unpleasant than a regular person who does not practice mindfulness. So the graph is rather interesting because when something hits us, so it's like this, right? The pain is like this, and then the experience of it is also that way. With mindfulness, the difference was this person was not anticipating the threat when it was coming its way. So when it came, the distress other people were experiencing before the pain arrived, they did not have that. They only had that experience only when the pain was inflicted, and when it was taken away, it was taken away. So they're most likely to not experience that kind of a distress in due time. So yeah, that is one thing, and that is why we say awareness is power, and the ability to hold that awareness, making yourself stay in the present moment, that makes a person very powerful. So yeah, that is that. Now about the next bit, it's interesting how a person can be mindful as a state or as a trait. And this is something that's really connected, but these are two different ways of being mindful. One mindful, being mindful is, okay, you just did an activity of mindfulness. You're also going to do a few of them soon. I hope you're able to cover it all. And you're just in a mindful state at the moment, or perhaps some of you is, and then when you start doing it, by the time you're doing it, you're in a mindful state, and then that goes away, it vanishes. Mindfulness trait is something different. This is about a person who is mostly mindful, and they have the switch that we were talking about earlier. They have that in them now, so they can turn it on when they want to, and it's rather easy. And then they would rather stay there because if you stay in the present, it's actually very compatible with your system. So it has a good impact on your body. It's pleasant to be that way. So the trait mindfulness is what we aim for. And the trait mindfulness is when you gain that control that we are talking about. And this is also about reading your own curriculum. And at this time, I think I'm going to share a story with you all. You can read from this. I'm leaving this to you. I think I'm going to skip on this because I am also, I have in a way shared all of these with you, so you can read it in your own time. Instead of that, I'm going to share a story with you. So this is a short spiritual story, and this is something that is again affiliated with what Buddha said. Buddha is a pretty prominent figure in mindfulness because the he is someone who has actually created several forms of mindfulness that are really in use today, and that is why he is credited. He is appreciated for them. So here's a little story. It is narrated in the Buddhist culture, so might be a folk tale, I cannot say, but it is a good one. So this is the story of a turtle and a fox. Now, what happens is one day once upon a time, there is a monk, and that monk is he lives in the mountains and he wanders and he practices these meditations. And what he observes about himself is that, whenever the weather is good, whenever he's getting good things to eat, when he's looking at sweet things, he feels happy. And whenever he comes across water bodies, he feels calm. But whenever the things around him are not very sustainable, or these are the things that he does not like, for example, savory foods. This monk is not fond of savory foods. He does not like muddy water. He does not like dirt. So this person visited Buddha, and he said that, this is something that I'm wondering, what is this about? Why am I always governable? Why does the situation around me have such a bad impact on me? Basically, what he meant was, why am I so vulnerable? If the situation around me changes, then I also change. So that is not fair. So Buddha took him out for a walk, and while they were walking, uh, they saw that there was a tortoise, there was a turtle, sorry, there was a turtle and there was a fox. And this fox came running towards the turtle. And as that happened, the turtle, he just, instead of moving, instead of just staying out, trying to, adjust himself, he just went inside his own shell. And Buddha was standing there and he said that, this is what makes this turtle so intelligent, and this is what makes us humans so foolish. Now, it's a very interesting thing to um, say, because this turtle did not actively fight back. This turtle did not run away. All those things we study about. Oh, when you're stressed out, you either take a flight, you fight, or you try to. There's a response called fawning. There is freezing. Well, those are a lot of details. But that turtle didn't do anything, and in a way, after some time, the fox went away, and the turtle was unharmed. So that is what Buddha said, that there are 6 things that this turtle was not engaging. And those 6 things are exactly the ones that us humans engage in. And that is why we are not able to deal with a lot of distress. And here's a stanza that I would like to share with you first, and then I can tell you what those 6 things are. He said, concealing the 6 like a turtle, concealing the 6 like a turtle, guarding the mind like a fort, conquering evil with wisdom, one will be triumphant and unharmed. These 6 elements that this person was talking about are your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body, and your mind. And in this story, it's all about, in any situation, this person is basically, what they're doing is not saying, oh, give up or go inside or just shut yourself down. They're not saying that. They're saying that, at all times, and when the time is stressful, then we are even more required to do it. We have to go inside. Instead of just actively responding to what's happening outside, you first have to go inside. Do that check in, and then go out when it's safer. It's not about withdrawing, it's about doing that check in. It's about connecting with yourself. And when you connect with yourself, that is where your control lies. Now you know what your fears are. Now you know what your buttons are, what others can press, and you're just there to know about it. You're not there to change it, but because quite frankly, if someone is afraid of dogs, they're terribly afraid. Now, no matter what they do, they go inside, they do this check, and no matter what they do in that moment, they cannot get rid of that fear of their dogs. They'll have to make their way around it, and knowing that this is a limitation is what gives them power. So there are quite a few examples that I could give in this moment. However, for the sake of our discussion, we're just going to say it. We're just going to um, limit it to this. Some observable benefits are, of course, as you all of you might have seen by now, high brain functioning, which is under a person's control. So the person was asking for, why does the situation have such a control on me? Mindfulness is something that can give you that control that way. Decrease in stress, enhanced ability for patients, and we have discussed these things. Decrease depressive and anxious symptoms, increase self-esteem, confidence, and resilience. This is a point that we are going to discuss at length, and I think it's very important for personal growth, for professional growth. It is a very important point. So, yeah, let's move on.
Are we taking questions, Sabina?
Sorry, I just muted myself because I had a cough.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm thinking, will we have to just wrap this exercise by 4:30, or we might have some time afterwards?
You can take a
Can
yeah,
someone
bit of
please
time
tell me?
afterwards also, about 10-15 minutes
Okay.
afterwards. Sorry for consuming that time earlier
Okay.
on.
It's all right. I believe I brought in a lot of heavy agenda. What we're going to do is, I think we can go for this exercise, but we might have to cut short on a few others because otherwise the time would not be very well managed. Okay. Perhaps people can let us know if they would rather go for these exercises, or would they rather know about this more today. Just in the next 30 seconds, if they could just let me know. We could customize it. It's actually better. Do we have any responses?
Participants are more interested towards the exercises rather than discussion.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, now. Very well. Well, that gives me a boost as well. So, okay, now we are going in as usual. You don't have to keep your eyes open if you want to. It's really up to you. Now, as you sit here, bring the focus of your attention now to hearing, opening to sounds as they arise from near or far. Sounds from in front, to the sides, behind, above or below. Noticing any tendency to label sounds as they come, or to judge whether you like them or not. Noticing how easily distractions can come, and how easily sounds can create a story. And if you notice this coming back to the sounds themselves and allowing them to be just as they are, as if you were hearing for the first time, so that each sound heard was new to you. Cultivating a sense of wonder, a sense of wonder for this ability to hear so much that we so often take for granted. Seeing if there's a possibility to really hear the roaring sensations of sounds, a pitch or loudness or rhythm, and the sounds within sounds. Some sounds are easily hidden by other more prominent sounds. See if we can be alive to these two, and noticing as well if there's a quieter space between sounds, a quieter space between my words. Being aware of the space out of which the sound arises. Now letting the sounds fade into the background, bringing your awareness to your thoughts. Maybe thoughts about what you're doing now or what you're going to be doing. What about the past worries or anxieties? Sad, happy, or neutral thoughts? See if it's possible to observe them all as they come, stay a while, and then go. Control your thoughts in any way, letting them come. Don't do that. Let them come and go on their own, just as you did with sounds. So when thoughts arise in the mind, seeing them coming and going like clouds passing across the sky. Your mind, like the sky, your thoughts, like the clouds. These clouds sometimes are large, sometimes they're small, sometimes dark, sometimes light. But the sky, it remains. It's possible to see them. It's possible to see them as events as well. Events that are arising in the mind, staying around a while, and then dispersing. Being aware of any emotions that come up as well. Seeing if it's possible to be open to it all, no matter what it is. From time to time, you may find that your mind gets caught up in your thinking. It's no longer observing your thoughts and feelings, but it's lost inside them. And when this happens, congratulate yourself for waking up, taking a moment to acknowledge what your mind got in, and then beginning again. Renewing your intention to observe these mental events as they arise, they stay a while, and then they dissolve. Anytime your mind gets repeatedly drawn into the story created by your thinking, remembering that it's always possible to come back to the breath and the sense of the body as a whole, just sitting and breathing as an anchor to stabilize your awareness back in the present moment before returning again if you choose to focus on the coming and going of the thoughts and feelings. And for the last few moments of the sitting, coming back to focus on your breathing, wherever you are, whatever your experience is, whenever you find your mind scattered and dispersed by the events of your day, breath is always available. It's there to nourish you and help you bring back yourself into the present moment, to a sense of stillness and peace. You. Now, when you're done, just open your eyes. I hope this was, if nothing else, an interesting experience for you. I hope it has given you a lot of questions. That's the whole aim of it. Questions are good, whether they are answered or not. That is the beauty of it. And I wish I could see all of you at the moment. I always enjoy that bit, but it is what it is, and we are going to move on. And I hope that, inshallah, in the end, we are going to find some time, and then you can interact with me directly as well. And let's move on to the next section. This is directly about the professional part. First of all, we were talking about the personal bit, and now the professional you. The Mind Mindful, that is a case study that was published in the Harvard Business Review, and it greatly talks about combining the SWOT analysis. And I hope you're familiar with that. SWOT is the acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what they talked about was combining mindfulness with SWOT analysis. And they also talked about being a mindful leader. And this is what they called it, the mindful. Someone who has the ability to lead because they're mindful. And here's a quote by Peter Drucker. Again, he's someone famous, writes about the combinations of mindfulness and several corporate practices, and how we can make corporate places more human, more people-centric. This is what they said. They said you cannot manage other people unless you manage yourself first. And how true. That is where your control lies. And I'm going to take a moment and give words to that thought. You know, whenever you're differentiating between, okay, what can I do? What can I not do? I want all of you to remember my words there. Every person is moving in their own circle of control. In our lives, there are things that we can control, and then there are absolutely things that we cannot control. What we can control are our own actions, our thoughts, what we choose to do with them, as we've been talking. Do we engage in them? Do we not engage with them? Do we observe them? That is where our control lies. How we feel, again, is something you cannot change. How you feel, you can change how you think over a period of time using different methods, but you cannot change how you feel. So that also lies outside your area of control. And what other people do, what the situation is like, what other people say, think, these are definitely matters that reside outside any person's area of control. So if it's not within you, it's also not within your control. So a person who knows how to handle their own control box, how powerful would they be? That's a question that I'm going to leave you with. And yeah. So mindfulness is, at the end of the day, somehow necessary for growth. How? There are a few concepts that a lot of us are familiar with in different ways, and I'm going to touch upon them one by one very quickly at that. I think we might need some more time, so we will try our best to end by 4:45. The first one is our about self-esteem. You might have heard this word; it really gets thrown around very casually, but that is very important. Now, self-esteem, for the sake of our discussion, I'll define it very briefly. Self-esteem is about how we perceive ourselves. So there is a concept of how we are and what we want to be, and the difference between the two, however much it's more, lower a person's self-esteem would be. So a person with where they want to be at and where they are, if there's a huge difference between the two, then their self-esteem is most likely to be low. And with that, there are a lot of fears and negative beliefs that reinforce that low self-esteem. And so low self-esteem is likely to stay low if a person has a lot of fears and negative beliefs. And with time, they add up, they get accumulated. And lower the self-esteem, lower a person's well-being, lower a person's productivity, lower a person's ability to dream, lower a person's ability to really do what they wish to do and manage their time, be productive. It all gets difficult because, again, if you remind yourself of that whole idea, they are not learning how to use their own remote control. And the control again lies in where they are today. It's not where they will be at some point. And a lot of times, self-improvement, with the next point, self-improvement that sounds like reprimand, uh, it can be more harmful if it's not done mindfully. Why? Self-improvement, if you have ever tried going on a diet, that is a perfect example of this. um, I believe I posted that today somewhere. I was talking to someone, and this is what I was reminded of. You know, when a person wants to lose weight, they need to have a good reason to do it. If they want to do it because by starving themselves, they'll get healthy, they're never going to be healthy because the idea is to really deprive themselves of food. Mindfulness is about really acknowledging what you're doing and then asking yourself, is this what you want to do? It's a healthier approach. It is more of an observational approach, self improvement that is bent upon hurting people, like, starve. The other person, it looks so good, and I don't. So I need to improve myself. That is a push that is rather harmful. So doing it mindfully, it's a whole different approach then. And I think it would be important for me to really share at the moment that mindfulness is something that can be practiced in combination of everyday life activities. And it's very wonderful. People can experience, actually, let me go to that, or maybe it will come up in a while. There, you don't have to really close your eyes to practice mindfulness. All these activities that I'm sharing today, they are meant to be on a certain level so that you can actually register them. However, mindfulness does not have to be like meditation. Um, you don't need a quiet space, as we were discussing earlier on. It's about mindful eating. You can practice mindfulness while eating. You can practice mindfulness while walking, while exercising, while doing makeup, while arranging your closets, while cleaning, while gardening, while knitting. If you can see the tapestry right behind me, this is known as a mandala. Again, this is another South Asian practice of creating art pieces using mindfulness. These designs are rather intricate, and I love this tapestry because of the same reason. It depicts the focus, the ability to be there with yourself. And there are different ways of doing this, right? For some people, mindfulness will be about creating a mandala using different materials. Some use sand to make it, some use paint, some use pencils. It can also be about coloring the mandala. So mindfulness is something that is present in different activities. So, and that is how these two things are connected with each other. And our inability, coming back to the slide, our inability to distress emerges from, sorry, I can't see this, from a need to control everything. And in order, if we reverse that, that is how we can actually grow, because it's a prerequisite. In our personal and professional relationships, lack of awareness can lead to a stop in our growth. And by removing that obstacle, we can really undo that. And lastly, professional growth does not come with a manual, and hence you have to seek guidance through your own curriculum. all of us, when we were doing that exercise, you might have noticed, you might not know the other person, and we, in a way, all of us have our own fears, we have our own thoughts. But these exercises are meant for you to discover your own thoughts and fears. It does not matter if the other person had it or not. It matters if you had it and what you had it. It's not like, oh, if you have any fear. It's like, what fears do you have? You are bound to have them, but what are they? And I think I might have to skip this one because this is a very long one, and then I can give you a homework of sorts, and you can do that for yourself. I think I might have to make that choice for now. And this is what I was talking about: mindful living. Uh, the At the end of the day, it's about when you want to increase your confidence, when you are talking about how to manage money better, how about making a better earning for yourself, living a better life. uh, Healthier lifestyle does not mean that your bed is a designer bed. It does not mean that your room was designed by so and so interior designer, so that is why now you have a good life. A good life comes from within. And this is how these two are differentiated. On the right hand side, you can see the mentally healthy, and on the left hand side, you can see the mentally unwell. So, with the unwell bit, there is distress. There are poor coping skills. There's a lot of, if I might say, distraction. Okay, I'm not liking this. How about I do something else? All those social media posts end up giving us this idea that whenever something bad happens, something we don't like, we have to just distract ourselves. You're not liking what is being said, leave the room. Okay, you can do that, but do it mindfully. You want to go outside in your garage, make something instead, do that. That has to be a mindful choice. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're just distracting yourself. And in a way, a lot of times this is what we see in our clinical practices. you know in case of volcanoes, do you know what a volcano is? With volcanoes, they're never built in, yeah, they're never created overnight. Like Rome wasn't created in a night, right? In a day. It's not something that happens in one moment. The lava is already there. It gets accumulated over years and years, and then there's this one pressure point, and then it erupts. And when it does, it's just a lot. It's difficult. It causes a lot of damage. And when a person keeps on distracting themselves, when the energy is not channelized, then that is what's most likely to happen. And now, eruptions are of very different kinds. Depression is also considered to be one of them. One type of depression. That's a very different topic. However, a few of the eruptions are mentioned on the left-hand side: sleeping too much or too little, weight loss, loneliness, avoiding social contact. And when a person is healthy, they have healthier habits. They're more mindful about what they're eating. One example of mindful eating is, ask yourself, how have you ever counted how many times you chew your food before you swallow it? Think of a random number if you don't know. The food, if you ever observe, under normal circumstances, if a person is not a mindful eater, they might enjoy just the first two bites of the whole meal. They might enjoy the time while they're waiting for their order or the food to arrive, and then there are two bites that they enjoy, and the rest of it's very bland. That's because the eating is also accompanied by a lot of other activities. Either you're talking a lot or you're watching TV, or there's multitasking, by the way, is a major, major enemy of mindful living. And multitasking, unfortunately, is something that we have been glorifying over the past few decades. So mindfulness is the best anecdote of that. So mindful eating, coming back to that question, there are 28 to 30 times when you chew your food. That is when it's the tastiest. It has most taste. You are able to figure out the difference in textures, the the taste, the ups and downs of flavors, and you don't need a lot of spice to do it. It can be some very basic ingredients, yet you will be able to experience a lot of it. I remember the first time I tried mindful eating. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this dish, but a lot of you might be. Um, it's called dal chawal. Dal chawal, it's actually a usual staple in a lot of our areas. And I don't remember eating that delicious a plate of dal chawal before. And that was because I discovered it was actually a very bland sort of a meal, because it was prepared in a mess. I was a hostelite, I was living there. So dal chawal was one of the dishes that anyone could just do with. And it was a Friday afternoon like this one. And um, but it was a great experience. So yeah, and mindful eating, the best bit about it is you don't have to eat a lot. Mindful eating is actually commonly used in weight loss programs. You don't have to eat a lot, you just have to eat a little bit, but you still get full because there's mindful eating involved. So yeah, there's mindful exercise, there's mindful money handling as well. This is something that you might want to look up, because I know you guys are from guys and girls, you're from that background. Mindful money handling is actually a thing, and it actually enables a lot of people to manage their money better, to make better investments, to really be aware of what's going wrong and where. And yes, a mentally healthy person is usually good in their sleep. They're able to manage better challenges, their challenges better, and they have a stable weight and a healthier appetite. Now, this is the homework that I wish to give to you as a gift. It's a gift because you might have already learned about this tool, or you might not know, I don't know. But SWOT analysis as a mindfulness tool is an excellent resource to do a personal analysis of where you are today. And SWOT in itself is also it's actually about today. Now, if you look at this, for those of you who don't know, S is for strength, W is for weakness, O is for opportunities, and T is for threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. These are directly related to a person and their internal reality. Opportunities and threats are about a situation. So they are external. And as if you combine these two, SWOT and mindfulness, together they are called a super tool. And they are used in a lot of corporate settings nowadays. That is what they've started doing, because SWOT in itself can be very deceptive if you are not very mindful. So here are a few interesting examples. I will quote them along the way. There are 3 ways to do it, and I would expect you to do all 3 of them. Try them. You don't have to submit any homework, but do it for your own good. SWOT basically forms a grid, and in grid 1 there is S, W, O, and T, and we actually can see that there are several combinations. So there's a grid, you make it S, W, O, T, and then you also figure out the interconnections of them. The study I was quoting a while ago, the Harvard Business Review published it a few years ago. Mindfulness, the mind mindful. So read that up. It talks about it at length. But for now, there are 3 levels you can do this with. So you can do your own SWOT analysis on a personal level, as you. There can be one on a professional level, you as a professional, and then there's a collaborative one. With person, you are required to enter your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats. The strengths that are your opportunities, the opportunities that are your strengths. Again, all the crosses. The strengths that are your uh, weaknesses in a way as well. I'll tell you how that works. And weaknesses that might be opportunities. So there's a lot of interplay if you look at it. It just doesn't end at just the basic SWOT. So that is one point to keep with you. The second is you do a collaborative one. Okay, so there's one grid that you filled for yourself, or let's suppose your personal SWOT analysis. Then you go and ask a friend and you ask them to fill it for you. What do they think are your strengths, your weaknesses, or your opportunities and your threats? That is a collaborative um, tool. And what you do is you compile those results, you ask a few friends, and then you compile those results and you compare them. So, and then you assess the difference between your narrative and other people's narratives. And here, if you look at the right lower corner, there are 6 things basically that you're required to keep in mind while doing the SWOT analysis. You have to find a quiet space basically to do it. You really need focus. This is something you might not want to do in a TV room. Draw the grid. As I was telling you, this is how you manage all that. And then you commit to being honest, being absolutely honest. Whatever is coming up, you write it down without any judgment. Whatever is happening is not right or wrong, good or bad, it's just there, right? Then you fill it, you compile the results, and you keep on repeating it after every time. It's always good to keep a record of these. So do it today, do it after a year, look back, see where you've come. SWOT analysis is a very, very, what could one say? It's a very flexible tool. And combined with mindfulness, it's just amazing. That is why it's called the super tool. Now, it's interesting that how do we stay mindful during it? This is how. First, you have to look for the overused strengths. The strengths that, for example, a person says that, I am someone who is great at humor. That is my strength. If that is coming up again and again, be mindful that this might be a weakness. How and why, that is, I'm going to leave that with you to think, but more likely or not, from a clinical standpoint, that might actually be a weakness of a person. Second, you have to see that sometimes a person's fears actually manifest as threats. How? It's about, it actually goes both ways. Sometimes we're just afraid that something bad might happen, and it actually happens because we are doing something in our present today that is leading to this. The concept of self-fulfilling prophecy is something that really comes to mind here. If anyone is interested in reading up on that, please do Google it. But yes, that can happen. It's not about something happening magically or after just because, oh, I'm thinking it so I can manifest it. No, not we're not going there. It's not about the secret law of attraction. It's about something else. It's about a person really anticipating a threat and then doing something in the present that leads to that. So being mindful of that. Third, if opportunities actually emerge as you observe. So if you keep on being aware, okay, this is my strength. Now automatically when you think, okay, and is this something that can be used anywhere? Is this a strength? First, this is a strength. Wow, I have a strength. How can I use this as an opportunity? You can create opportunities, you can recognize opportunities, you can actually wait for them, you can choose to wait for them. So that is how it works. And another tip, I think I've already given it to you, keep a record to witness your process over time. That is always very helpful for your development. And review your grids and revisit. Long day. And yes, that is rapid end. I'm open to questions. Thank you for listening patiently. And before I sign off, I would say if anyone is interested in looking at my work, following it, these are the contacts. I'm on Instagram. That's a public profile. You can even approach on LinkedIn or my email ID. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone might have any through these as well. And I can also take a few. I'm here till, I can stay here till 5 if someone's interested in staying back.
Yes, we have some questions lined up. Starting off,
Okay.
we have some, we do have some students as well in the session. So one of the student has asked how to overcome failures.
Okay, after this whole session, the word failure is very interesting. really urge you to notice your usage of the word failure. Is it a failure? It's something that has happened, yes, and it seems to me that this person is not very fond of it. But is it failure is more of an adjective. It's not telling you what's going on. So what happened? You step back, you observe what's going on, whether you like it or you don't like it, you observe what's going on. And then you see, okay, here are the things that seem to be going in someone's favor, and these are the things that are not going in their favor. Are there any changes that I would like to make in these? Or something like that. And then, of course, the question is rather generic. So I'm just answering to the generic bits. If it's a specific situation, then perhaps you can state it. But yes, our notion of the word success, the word failure, the word, oh, it worked or it did not work, it's rather subjective. What's going on is important. How you judge a situation, it's something that will be different for different people. So yeah. Next question.
Okay. Usman Muhammad Ashraf wants to know any good book to read on mindfulness.
Yeah, actually, I can share a few readings with uh, Mr. Haroon here, and I think I can forward you a few names, and then you can get them from him. Hopefully, there are quite a few. There are. To think about it. No, I would rather be careful with this question. I can send you a a list if that works for you, and you can read on it. It's just something that I have rather been interested in. There are so many bits of it, and I would rather experience it. So the names are not on the tip of my tongue. I'm sorry, and I will have to be
That's
careful with the suggestions. I'll share soon. I can share a reading list. Okay, next question. Are there any other?
Yeah, just I think one or two. Zara Aziz wants to know what's the difference between distraction and channelizing a thought of feeling.
Hmm. Distraction in the very act of it, that's a very intelligent question, I must say. Distraction is about it's about avoidance. Distraction techniques are about avoidance. It's about us knowing that, oh, this is unpleasant, I'm going to remove myself from this situation. And distraction is about jumping from one task to another. So there's not a lot of control there. It's something you do automatically. For example, fidgeting. If I'm tensed about this, I'm continuously moving my foot. That is one way of distracting myself. The fidget spinners you might actually see, that is one form of distraction. Some people are prone to distraction using several proper activities. For example, whenever for example, it's been a bad day at work, and I'm just going to go and watch Netflix and try to immerse myself in the movies. I'm not accepting my reality. I'm not even attending to it. I'm just trying to run away. So there's a major, if you ever read about coping mechanisms, if you ever read about how we respond to a situation, distraction is more of a reaction instead of a response. It's not something where a person is owning their inner reality, because there are a lot of cues there, and distraction means disrespecting all of them or almost all of them. So yeah, distraction is something, by the way, that is most likely to work in the short term, but it can have a lot of long term disadvantages or even harms. Any other question?
Yeah, I left this question for the last. One of our participants from Maldives wants to know what is the qualification to practice organizational psychology? Are there any opportunities for such jobs in the market?
There are a lot of interesting jobs in the market now globally. For to become an organizational psychologist, different countries have their own criterion. What happens is with any clinical, I can only respond to this for, I think for Pakistan and for USA, because I was trained using that model. So I'm more aware of them. You might have to look up these criterion for your own countries or for your own regions or for the area that you're applying in. Usually, in MS or a basic graduate degree, an undergrad is required in psychology. People have their masters or PhD in organizational or industrial psychology as well. But then there are also people who have been trained to work in the clinical model. These are the people, like I am one of them. Due to the training that they've received, they are more they are in a way trained to deal with extreme cases. So it only makes sense that, when it comes to human behavior, it's easier for them to transform into this role, because this is rather, lesser intensity. Otherwise, even when I joined this, I had to make sure that I was well read in this. Organizational behavior is a subject, by the way, that is offered in most undergrad programs, but as a course. The people who have done MBAs are also trying to get in. There are some diplomas as well. So you might want to see what your legislation says, and then you can go into that. By the way, for Google, the criteria, they have an organization wellness psychologist, so does Amazon. For them, the criteria is you need to have a master's in clinical psychology or of the likes. So yeah. Is there something else?
Okay. Yeah, two last questions. Rather, one of them is a request from Salman Javed. He just wants you to, with your own experience, can you please tell us how can we practice mindfulness in our personal life easily in few simple steps, avoid any complex terminologies? It is a rather request from Salman.
Such I don't know. I think I'm going to and I'm going to invite you to do the same. Just listen to this question as a human being, a fellow human being, and I'm going to respond to it as a fellow human being without any jargon. I hope I tried my best to not use any jargons, but I believe they become a part of it in a way. So, mindfulness is about, first of all, observing what's going on. It can be anything. It's about welcoming, letting it stay, that okay, this is something that's happening, we'll just string it, okay, this is XYZ that is happening, right? And then you immerse yourself more in it. How? You accept it, and then you become curious about it. Oh, this is something that's happening, and what else is happening? Sound within a sound. There are a few scripts that you heard today. There are a lot of them out there as well. There is an application, if anyone is willing to use it. It's really easy to um, practice mindfulness using them initially. If you are trying to go for a script based learning, that is known as Headspace. And there's also another application, Be Calm. If any one of you if any one of you wears a smartwatch, these especially, I know with the Apple ones there is a mindfulness section. What they do is they just allow you to focus on your breath. So you're just focusing, you're doing nothing else, you're just observing what's going on. The first step, first few rounds, you might be just noticing, oh, my belly rises when uh, when I become more mindful, and then you start noticing your heartbeat. And then it goes so on, and you're not trying to change anything. You're just observing and you're accepting. So that is the principle of it. And then you can combine this with any activity. Mindful walking actually includes a person just walking anywhere, and as they take steps, they're just noticing the sensations that are there. And then from the outer sensations, okay, this is how when my foot moves. oh, I can feel that there is a push that's helping me moving forward. So you go deeper and deeper. This is a question that half of it you have to answer for yourself. What is your curriculum? What is written in you? That's what you have to pay attention to. And yes, with mindful eating, it's about chewing your food 28 times. You start with that, and then you observe what happens next. What flavors are there? You open yourself to that. So yeah, I think if I had to summarize it all, that would be it. I hope this was helpful in any way.
I think that was answered
And
perfectly. It helped me to understand the concept as well in a more detail. I think that's it for the questions. I don't see any other question for now from the participants. My 2 cents on the session today, quite informative. I'm sure all of the accountants here in this session are surprised that you can apply the SWOT analysis on your mindfulness and your inner instincts, because most of the accountants here, they have applied the SWOT analysis on external macro environment analysis in their work, but this was something new for accountants that I can think of. Thank you so much, Sabina. Over to you, Harun.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you very
wonderful.
much. And I think very thought-provoking and challenging your existing thoughts. I think that's what my takeaway was. Always keep your mind open for things you can't, imagine or, have in your mind already. But I think quite a few interesting exercises also. So I mean, particularly observing your breath. And when you're observing your breath, what else is happening and what else goes on in your mind. I think that was very well conducted. So thank you very much. And I think good appreciation received from all our participants as well. I'm sure all of them really enjoyed it. We will appreciate feedback, and we will inshallah be inviting you, Sabina, for more detailed sessions. I know we had to struggle quite a bit on how to have a lot of content squeezed into the 1.5 hour. Quite a bit of a struggle, but we will definitely have more detailed sessions in future. And Sabina, whenever you're conducting sessions for other corporate clients, not individuals, of course, whenever you're holding sessions for other corporates, do let ACCA members know as well. And we will definitely pass on your message to all the members that we have in the region. So thank you so very much for taking time out for conducting this excellent session, very interactive, full of poll questions, full of exercises. What else there could be? So thank you very much for that, and take good care of yourself. I'll be in touch with you shortly.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank
much,
you.
Mr. Harun. It was a delight. Yeah. Thank you. Love it.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.